I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, November the 18th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin was granted the same label claims as Draxxin by the FDA and is the bioequivalent in active and inactive ingredients, strength, dosage form, and route of administration. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri got a big sale here on Monday. Going to be starting at 6 o'clock in the morning and have around 8,500 head. They had about 5,000 head in on Sunday afternoon, which is not normal. Normally they get all the cattle in early that day, or a larger percentage of them. But you know, the market jumped. It's still a little bit muddy around, but the market has jumped, and there's cattle waiting out in the wings there. And of course, Jackie and the boys told them, you know, hey, it's a good time to sell them. Get them in here. They're going to have 100 loads of yearlings at Joplin Regional Stockyards here today on Monday. Get on to DVAuction.com. You can view and bid those cattle right there. They had a big Show Me Select replacement heifer sale on Friday there at Joplin Regional Stockyards. The heifers averaged just over $3,200 per head, and the top lot sold for $4,500 per head. So having good sales there all the time. They've got some value-added sales here coming up between now and the end of the year. So be sure and take a look at them, guys, if you got cattle to sell or you're in need of some. Opposite directions, and it's starting to not make much sense. Of course, a lot of times feeding cattle or even backgrounding cattle doesn't make a lot of sense, but especially when your fat cattle market is dropping like a rock and your feeder cattle is going up about as fast, and then your stocker cattle are going up with a rocket. You know, it's just it's making them hard to pencil. But when you've got as much wheat as we've got in the southern plains, and it is as rank as it is, and it's raining. I'm doing this on Sunday night. It is raining in Canyon, Texas, in the Amarillo area right now. It's supposed to be raining all day tomorrow in the Oklahoma, in the whole state of Oklahoma, especially in the central parts. But this wheat is rank, guys, and it's been wet. Guys haven't been able to get many cattle out on there. It's going to get so rank, it's going to be hard for them to get a handle on it. But it's made this demand for stocker cattle go insane. And we've just got great demand for feeder cattle also. Our yearlings are running out. Won't be long before it'll be nothing but big calves to feed, but they will be weaned longer as we go forward and we get into the just after the new year. They'll be short yearlings. They'll be calves, long time weaned calves, and they'll be fancy. And you know, we assume that they could get higher yet. Then these farmer feeders are getting aggressive, guys, and they're ready for some cattle. A lot of them feeding cattle, and they haven't fed cattle for several years. They had a big bumper crop of corn, and the prices are not great. So what are you going to do? You're going to walk some of that to town. And we've got a lot of diversified agriculture guys that are going to do that. So anyways, it's just getting to be pretty wild here, making it tougher to be a backgrounder, and especially a cattle feeder. This fat cattle market has been dropping, and mostly because the wholesale beef prices are dropping. That's the packers' fault, guys. Don't let them talk you into taking less money when there's fewer cattle out there. You know, you cattle feeders aren't going to give you know, a backgrounder more money for his cattle just because he's having to pay more for them as stockers. No, you're going to try to buy them as cheap as you can. Well, that's what they're, you know, you've got to use the same mentality on the fat cattle. But was able to go to Santa Teresa, New Mexico late last week and attend the LMA's World Livestock Auctioneer Championship qualifier at Santa Teresa Livestock Auction, where my buddy Tato Medina runs a pretty whippy sale right there, selling Mexican cattle coming into the United States. They're all Mexican cattle, and they had 30 contestants there. He did a good job putting that sale on. It ran a little longer than we had anticipated, but had a lot of good competition there. Met a lot of people that I didn't know, that I'm glad that I met. Had a good time there. We had all kinds of things going on down there. Actually made 2 trips to Juarez on the wrong side of the border. My first and my last. They were pretty hard on us down there, and maybe we shouldn't have dressed up like jackasses to go down there. Maybe that was part of the problem. But the competition was good. Brennan Jack from Manitoba, Canada, was the winner of the qualifier. Naturally, I had him picked. He is probably one of the 2 or 3 best cattle auctioneers in the world that have not yet won the world. So he's just right there. That's basically just going through the motions, him going to a qualifier and winning it, and then going to the World Championship contest, which will be in Dunlap, Iowa, in Shaben, Iowa, or in Dunlap, Iowa. It might as well be called Shaben, Iowa there, but Dunlap Livestock Auction. But it was a good competition. Had several of my good friends make the top 10. Colvin Connell made it. He sells over here at Tulia and sells down at Roswell, and he's from New Mexico, and he's a really good guy. And just there's a lot of them that were in it. One I want you to keep an eye on that made the top 10, and you may not have ever heard of him. His name is A.J. Austin. He's from Arkansas. Now, I was a judge at a Missouri LMA competition that they were having there one time, and this has probably been 15, 20 years ago, and he was just a kid, and you could absolutely tell he had the talent, the raw talent, and he won that contest back there years ago, and then I haven't heard a whole lot out of him here for the last many years, but he's got his stuff together now. He was all business there. He's got a southern style to him that I really like, and he absolutely leaves tracks, guys. He is so fast and just really smooth and clear and easy to listen to. But check him out when you get a chance, and you'll get to see him when we get to the World Championship contest there. But also, after getting back home to the Amarillo area, was able to go out Saturday evening to the Working Ranch Cowboys Association's World Champion Ranch Rodeo, and that's always fun. They've got a huge trade show. If you guys haven't been to that, you need to go to it. It's a little bit like, I'm saying a little bit like the national finals, just a whole lot ranchier. And so is the trade shows. The trade shows are very ranchy, but if you like that kind of stuff, make plans to go to it next year. But I have to give a shout out to the winners of this year's World Championship Ranch Rodeo. First place went to the Muleshoe and Hatchet Ranches from Arizona. Now, second place, or reserve champion, went to my buddy Ellison Carter Cattle Company's entry there. EC Cattle, you guys know him. I give his quotes on what he ships out quite a bit on here. That part of the team is headed up by his son Nathan. Sometimes his oldest granddaughter Corley is involved in that, but they team up with Mule Creek Cattle, both those outfits out of north central Texas there. But I thought that was pretty cool that EC's team got in there with reserve champion. I thought they were going to win it. They absolutely schooled them on some pinning challenge there, or that event on Saturday night by 20 some seconds. I mean, they absolutely just went in there, peeled them out, put them right in, and just beat everybody else to shame. But was glad to see them. Congratulations to them. I didn't know how close the numbers were as far as how many points they had separated them, but man, I thought EC Cattle was going to win the world, but they got reserve champion. And when I saw Ellison Carter there on Saturday evening, I noticed he kind of had a shit-eating grin, so he was And it wasn't that he was proud of his team or he was proud of his son Nathan or any of that. It was because he had their team bought in the Calcutta that they had on Wednesday night. But let's talk about your board for last week. December live cattle futures, Monday started out unchanged. Tuesday was up 70 cents. Wednesday was down 37. Thursday was down 107. And Friday was unchanged. The live cattle board, just sees all these other classes going up and thinks it ought to go with it, but no support on that end of the industry. So December live cattle ended the week at 182.95, down 75 cents for the week. February ended the week at 185.25, down just a nickel compared to the end of last week, but not much support for fed cattle, guys. Now, on the other hand, feeder cattle, November feeder cattle, Monday was up 72, Tuesday up 67, Wednesday down just 35, Thursday up $1.15, and Friday up 347. Huge gains on feeder cattle futures on Friday. November contract ended the week at 251.10. That was up $5.68 for the week. January gained $5.80 for the week at 247.22. And they were just trying to chase down those index levels, which keep going up as folks keep giving more for the cattle. Your grain futures, December of corn, ended the week at $4.24 a bushel. That was down 7 cents for the week. January beans down 31 3/4 at 998.5. And Kansas City hard red winter wheat for December ended the week 24 1/4 cents higher at $5.40 a bushel. Let's talk about your fat cattle trade. Up through Thursday of last week, they had sold 49,700 head negotiated cash fed cattle in your 5-area feeding region. Live prices range from 182 to 186, which was $3 lower. Weighted average on live steers in the 5-area, 184.74. That was down 236. Dress prices ranged from 287 to $3. That $3 was a major outlier there, guys. But $3 to $5 lower on the bulk of trade dressed. Weighted average on dressed steers, 290.87. That was down 309 compared to the end of last week. And then now this is Friday's sales, which will go in on top of that for the week. And then I'll give you the end of the whole week roundups, weighted average on our next visit. But on Friday, Iowa sold another 800 head, just over 24,000 for the week. Live prices in Iowa on Friday were only 184, 290 dressed. Nebraska sold 1,200s all on Friday, 20,400 for the week. Live prices in Nebraska on Friday, 185 to 186, and dressed at 290. Now Kansas, they sold another 150s all on Friday, just only 5,400 for the week. But the live price in Kansas on Friday, cash, was 186, where the bulk of the trade that was 185 last week. So did see a little bit of pep in it, 150 head, big deal. But still, it was making a little bit of difference there. Texas sold 1,250 head on Friday at 185, and they didn't even sell 3,000 for the week negotiated, and it's getting where they don't at all. They sell more cattle negotiated grid, but there's not much negotiation on those, basically just railing those cattle. But the market was sure lower, $2 to $4 lower in most cases. We'll get the whole roundup at the end of when I give you the report for tomorrow. But box beef cutout values for the week last week were down hard, and that is the main reason that the fat cattle are down so much. Choice cuts, your weighted average on all of last week's sales down 731 compared to the previous week's weighted average at 306.11, and your late Friday sales were down around $3 more than that, more than the weighted average. Your select weighted average on all of last week's sales, $4.25 lower than the previous week at 278.65. End of the week trade on select was another $2.50 cheaper than your weighted average at just over 276. So a lot of pressure on wholesale beef prices. Choice select spread on your weighted average was just under $27.50, and all that information based on 710 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction ended the week at 252.49 based on an 800 pound cash auction steer. Ended the week there. That was $2.90 higher for the week. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index was 250.231. Now your cash feeders in your sales last week, feeder calves and yearling feeders sold steady to $5 higher. Those going right into the feedlot. But stocker calves were $10 to $20 higher. And guys, you could even call some of these, I don't like to call a market on 3 weights, but if you wanted to check the trend on 3 weights, there would have been a lot of them from 30 to 50 higher. It's just that there's really no limit by the pound what they'll give for a 3-weight steer, and I'm going to show you that here in just a minute. And just like I said last week, if these quotes don't get you excited, then Viagra won't help, guys. Let's talk about the sale that I was at on Friday. It was Santa Teresa Livestock Auction in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, selling these Mexican cattle coming into the country and having a competition of them for the qualifying event. Tato had about 1,800. That's about all he can hold there in his pen. Sometimes he has to have 2 sales a week to get as many cattle sold as want to sell through that auction there on the border. But check out this automated market report from Santa Teresa Livestock on Friday. Mind you, these are Mexican cattle selling for the import. They had 297 head of 3-weight steers. They averaged 370 with a weighted average price of 366.86. 343 head of the 4-weight steers averaged 450 right on the button. Weighted average price 328.71. And 286 head of the 5-weight steers averaged 535 at 304.24. Now look at some of the spayed heifers. 189 head of 4-weight heifers at Santa Teresa, New Mexico, average 452, weighted average price 292.58, and 141 head of the 5-weight heifers, average 549 pounds at 253.57. Now those cattle were brought across. They had the brandings, had the ear tags, everything they needed to cross, had already done any quarantining they needed. Those cattle were ready to be loaded on trucks and sent to you at the conclusion of that auction if you were the high bidder. Give you some individual quotes from all around. How about Lexington Livestock Market in Lexington, Nebraska? They sell 123 steers on Friday, weighed 912 pounds, and bring 267.85. Wow. How about St. Francis Stockyard in St. Francis, Kansas? They sell 73 Pee-wee steers, weigh 350 pounds, and bring 397.50. How about Erickson, Nebraska? They sold 70 weaned steers, where the Pritchard cattle there weighed 697 pounds at 286. And then my friends out in Fallon, Nevada had their special monthly sale without me because I'd already obligated myself to be down in Santa Teresa. But at Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon, Nevada, had their monthly feeder special. It was a humdinger. How about 110 steers, weighed 550 through the ring there, bring 334.50. How about these little peewees? 55 head, 311 pound little peewee hard steers there in Fallon, Nevada, bring 454. Now, I thought my old auctioneering buddy John Hanger was going to blow a fuse on them. I don't know who started them, probably him, but he had to go a long ways before he found just one bidder left on that bunch of lightweight calves. But there's literally no end what they'll bring, guys. How about the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere late last week or over the weekend was your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day. Come out of Fort Pierre Livestock Auction in Fort Pierre, South Dakota. They had 64 steer calves, weighed 500 pounds smooth, and bring 350 and a half, or just over $1,750 a head. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.